Hello, my name's Tom Keel from Deakin University. Welcome to this walkthrough of the Bimbimbie Project. I'd like to start by thanking Sustainable House Day for putting on this wonderful event, all the team there. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Bunurong people from Gippsland area of Victoria, Australia. And again, welcome you all to this tour. So just to clarify, I'm available to chat for questions via my LinkedIn page, Tom Keel at Deakin University, if you'd have any questions or queries about what you see today. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my video image to work here. It was interfering with this H5P program, so apologies for that, but we still have a good tour ahead of us where we're going to use this great technology to go above and inside and through the walls of the house. I'll change the image to aerial while we keep discussing an introduction. With regards to the concept here, the Bimbimbie Project is a project we did to keep in line with our teachings at Deakin University. At Deakin, we have property and real estate department, and in there is where I teach a couple of units called Sustainable Property Construction, Advanced Property Development, and a few others as well. Our teaching is to often undergraduate students and postgrad as well, where we really try and merge the two concepts, construction and sustainability, together to show they're not mutually exclusive. There's a big overlap, but at the same time touching on all the details of both. So this was our great chance to put into practice what we teach in the classroom. The essence of what we teach is under the acronym of MOTIVE, which stands for Materials, Orientation, Thermal Mass, Internal Room Placement, Ventilation, Insulation, and then Energy Efficiency. So under that acronym and covering those topics, we feel we give the students a really good understanding of sustainability. I'd like to also mention the word sustainability at the start. It's commonly used and often people have different interpretations. So what we tried to do in this house here was to make a more sustainable house. We're not claiming to be the exemplar because we also were trying to follow standard industry supply chains and practices and procedures. In other words, to show a sort of project that a volume builder can do and that students could expect to be working on in the future. So in light of that, we've got what we call a far more sustainable home rather than an exemplar sustainable home, but it's one that's easily reproduced, and as well as that, it's quite affordable and many builders could do it. So I'll go through, I think it'll take around 25 minutes to do because we have a lot of points to check as we run through the different aspects of the house. But also wanted to mention that we're at the Cape Estate here, which some of you would be very familiar with. It's an award-winning estate down in the Gippsland region, and as you can see from the images there, it's designed as an eco-village. What that means is it sits next to national parks, both marine and land ones. It's also 50% open space, where you can see here we have a great allocation towards community living and open space. The national park, you can see in the image to the left, there is a very large food garden there as well, which is designed for people to be as self-sufficient as possible, and of course a big welcoming of nature through all the natural water treatments and open spaces and ponds, etc. So we love the concept. We're very excited to see the mob of kangaroos and many other animals coming back to land which was previously quite barren farmland. The houses themselves, all you may be familiar from seeing others, 7.5 star minimum, maximum 200 square meters. They are designed to be highly energy efficient, minimum 7.5 star, but mostly around 8 star. No gas, no front fences, and a whole host of other ideas that help to make this a sustainable community. So one last look at the beautiful water before we drop that back down. Just quickly before we drop back down, the rear garden is not visible very much in this video, but what it does contain is, as you can see from here, an open fence. Part of the thinking there is to allow both vegetables to creep through between different properties as a sharing food source, lets animals and other little critters run through, as well as sunlight and airflow, which is very important for the cross-flow ventilation. A huge water tank, which is part of a grey water system. There's also heat exchange for low energy use. Natural light is allowed through the skylight, and of course the all-important solar panels there. If we look a little bit more closely at some of the other features, you can see we've also tried to use materials which allow the water to remain on the site and go into the soil. So rather than concreting all the way up to the wall, the garage door, because it's a flat block, we're able to use a gravel there as well. You'll notice footpaths on one side of the street but not the other, and that's again limiting the use of concrete on the site. More grass, more permeability, and once the native garden is planted out, it'll be thick and lush and look really beautiful and complement the area very nicely. So at the front of the house, there's a few things to mention as well. Our side profile shows some of the more hidden aspects of being sustainability. It's easy to point to a solar panel, but at the same time we like to point out other things as well, such as by having a flat roof rather than a high-pitched roof, you're obviously saving a lot on materials. The flat roof's perfect for hot water collection as well, one tank at the back, and everything flows that way nicely. Beautiful local timber is used with a lovely ship block pattern there, and that gives a great weatherproofing and a nice structural stability to the house, as well as being a renewable resource and of course very appealing. The window shades and eaves are a part of our heating system of the house. What they do is replace a very large eave. So again, far less material is used here than in an eave, and they're mathematically designed with the angles of the blades here and the length and the height and the width of them to work perfectly with the sun's movements through the day and through the season. So it lets in the sun exactly when you want it, and it blocks out the sun when you really don't want it. So we'll discuss that more when we're inside looking at the thermal mass on the floor. I think we may have covered the flat roof. Yes, we also have thermal wrapping, an essential ingredient in maintaining the condition, the air condition of the house, the comfort, but also in dealing with water management. So that's a standard building process there. A quick look at Bimbimbie at night, just for another visual, and then we have a video, and then the cutting of the site. For our students, we've also included in here construction elements as well as the sustainable elements, so they can see the preparation of the project as well. Incidentally, no soil was removed from the site, it all remained on site, so another little tick. As we go inside, we enter the airlock. The airlock has a double glazed door which lets in natural light and also helps to insulate the house. But the airlock, as you'll see, is just a very small, simple room. The beauty of the airlock is that it keeps the temperature in the house even when you're using the doors. So if the floor area of the house is 200 square meters and you lose all of that through an open door, then naturally you've got to condition all that air again, either heat it or cool it. But here, we would only lose a maximum of, let's say, 6 square meters, 7 square meters of air in the comings and goings, and therefore the rest of the house holds its temperature. A nice little addition of plants there to create some oxygen in the room. And if we look here, we see the walls are all nicely insulated, where we've gone for well above industry minimum regulations and really put in excellent insulation levels. I think it's I can't remember the walls versus roofs, but it's 2.5 and 6.5 between the two of them to make sure that we insulate as well as possible. The airlocks are a wonderful invention. We hope that more houses will have them. They don't cost much to build. They do take up some floor space, but it's also wonderful for storing a bike or shoes, and basically does a great job keeping the house nice and sealed. There's just a picture of the one door in the house that does have the below door seal is the one into the garage, just because the garage isn't as well insulated with this door. It is an insulated garage door. It adds to the livability of the room. So again, in terms of what's sustainable about this, we say, well, we didn't need to build a garage and a rumpus room. We now have them both in one, because with the use of good insulation and insulated doors, we're able to make it a livable room. The beauty again of advancements is the electric cars without the engine oil. The oily engine do not drop that amount of oil that they used to when we had the combustion engine. So it is possible to put the car in on the carpet, and then also to take the car out and use it as a rumpus room when people need that area. The electric car charge point is near to the garage door, so it can be offered to visitors as well as a car that's parked inside the garage. It runs off the solar panels on the roof and the battery, or the battery, depending what time you charge. A wonderful addition. So no more buying of petrol, just getting all the energy you need from the car and from the solar panels. Just to flick around, you can see we've added a work from home space into this room as well as some natural light. So if we can do things where, set up buildings or houses where people can work from home and save the commute time, the commute petrol, it's definitely an addition to the nod to sustainability. And then double glazed windows on the side. Here we see the battery, which has since been connected to the solar panels. So we're now able to look on our phone and see how much energy are we selling, how much are we using, and really get a good understanding of what we are consuming or producing and selling, and a wonderful addition to the home. Moving back through the entrance, we go back through the airlock into the kitchen. And perhaps the most interesting part of the kitchen is to see this site here, where we see the cabinetry is almost finished and there isn't a gas pipe in sight. So no copper dug out of the ground, no chemicals, no expense of copper, and basically an all-electric kitchen. So we now have induction cooking and low energy use appliances there, which really means also no pipes throughout the estate for gas. So you're really reducing the material use a lot, not burning any gas in the home, and creating a much nicer environment in the house. The rest of the kitchen has a few nods towards sustainability as well. This beautiful brick wall made of recycled brick is evident there, and it's again reverse brick veneer. So quite a bit of the house has this notion of reverse brick veneer, which means the bricks will hold the temperature you set in the house. If you can warm the house with the sun to a certain temperature that you like, the bricks with their thermal mass will hold it at that temperature. So rather than put the bricks on the outside of the house where they're exposed to the weather and the wind and not helping you much, it's far better to have them on the inside. I suppose if we're looking for sustainable aspects of the kitchen, some are easy to find, such as double glazed windows and the flywire here, which allows cross ventilation. But we also should acknowledge that just by limiting the size, that we're really trying to reduce the materials consumed. We'll have a quick look at the ceiling fan before we go into the lounge, and then we'll jump across here. So the heating system of the house is this. We can see by the amount of sun that's coming into the room here that we're probably looking at getting close to summer, the peak of summer, either just before or just after. We've blocked out virtually all the sun and just let a little bit in. So maybe we're talking about November would be the time when this photo was taken. It's basically saying we wanted a lot of light and a little bit of sun on the floor, but not too much. And then as the sun drops in the sky in winter to probably over here where the hand is moving, it would of course let a lot more in, and that's where we get it to heat the floor. The image here would shows the light streaming across. I think this photo was taken in about July during construction, where that's why it's so dusty, but that's where we see the sun coming fully in and landing on the floor. The floor, of course, being able to absorb the sun, and then the double glaze heating, keeping the sun, and then the double glazed windows will not let that heat escape again. So the beauty of the system is the rays of the sun will come through the double glazing, land on the floor, warm the floor, and then it stays in, because the way the energy sources change once they've hit the floor means the heat can't escape again. So that's the heater, and it's a wonderful addition to the home. With regards to the wildlife, the success of the project is evident in so much as the kangaroos come through every day, and there's more and more other types of wildlife as well. So they're feeling comfortable by the lack of fences and all the open spaces, and they're quite happy grazing amongst the inhabitants. Very, very important this is one that we always remind people, when you're ordering your windows and doors, don't forget to order the flywires, because they make the house so much more livable for very little extra cost. It means that whilst in sustainable housing, we're often talking about controlling our environment and keeping it sealed, we also love nature, and there's just some days where you just love to throw open all the doors and all the windows and let beautiful nature come through the house. It's like it is a breath of fresh air, but at the same time, we don't want all the mozzies. So, with the flywires, it's the perfect thing where you get all the benefits without any of the trouble. You'll see more thermal mass brick walls here, and over at the end, I'll just quickly show the ceiling insulation. Again, it's a really high rating insulation because, as we know, hot air rises, so it'll be sitting often close to the ceiling, and therefore we need super well installed, like good installation of very good quality insulation. And just by looking at it, you can tell that it's going to keep you nice and warm. There's many options of using recycled materials to help make the insulation more sustainable as well. LED lights is very common, and of course they're installed all throughout the property. With regard to the electric fireplace, there's numerous reasons why we recommend them. It's hard to take a good photo in the daytime to show just how great it looks, but at night time it looks fantastic. It's like a TV, like having a TV with only one channel, but it's a fantastic channel. And the modern ones are really offer a lot of options, so you can change the flame colors and heights and different things. But really the benefit of them is it creates a nice environment with no smoke, and also you don't have to go in and out the house collecting wood and losing all your heat. You don't have to open the doors to get rid of smoke and lose all your heat, and there's no gas either, so no gas pipes and no use of gas. It's very safe. You'll never be driving to work or somewhere else wondering, did you leave the fire on? Because it doesn't matter. It's the equivalent of just leaving an LED light on. So we thought it was a wonderful way to work with the guidelines of the estate, which didn't allow gas. Some of these other rooms I'll move through a little bit quickly because they sort of replicate themselves being bedrooms. We will admit that this bedroom here is on the wrong side of the house because it's on the north side, and ultimately we would like the north side to be just living rooms to make use of all the times when we're awake and active and we want the light, and in winter we want the warmth. But at the same time, this room here allows itself to be both a bedroom and a workstation. Again, double glazing, the fly wire on the doors, and then the workbench. So it's possible for people to work from home, and several people to work from home, because we've made several allowances for working from home. In terms of your fixtures and fittings, it's woolen carpet, low use steel energy ceiling fans, and we will be able to see as many natural materials as we can. Again, a sort of a silent sustainability idea is to have double beds in smaller bedrooms rather than queen or king or super king beds in bigger bedrooms. And again, it saves on floor space, which again uses a lot less concrete. Don't know what's just happened to my video here. Okay. I think we've covered that room. I was a bit worried then that it had disappeared. We'll walk through the multi-purpose room here. So that's the living, and then just to give everyone a bit of a quiet space, we have the multi-purpose room, and with a third workstation. Similar idea with the windows and the insulation as other ones, trying to use timber where possible as it's a natural resource. And again, one little thing of note is the air conditioner split system. So often people say, why, if you're so sustainable, do you have this? And it's really just a backup emergency. If you've been cooking a large dinner party for your friends and you've heated the house all day with the stove and the cooktops going all day, it gives you the opportunity to cool the house down again before the guests arrive. Or there might be a few other circumstances when you need it. But generally it's not often used, and even when it is used, it draws usually from the solar panels. Bedroom 1. I don't have a lot of claims to make about this bedroom, but it does raise one point, which I'll get to in a minute, after just showing how it's allowed for cross ventilation. A window in the north there and a window in the south, again openable, and flywise means you can get a wonderful breeze flowing through. Looking at the picture here of this same bedroom taken from the multi-purpose room during construction, you can see the wonderful insulation. It just looks cozy, it just looks snug, and you can just see that all of that insulation is going to be doing a wonderful job of creating a quiet and comfortable sleep environment. In this case, the bedroom's on the south side of the house, and that's where we would like it to be, because that's where it's cooler and darker, and that's the conditions that humans and mammals like to sleep in. You can see some repurposed and recycled bricks, getting ready to make another reverse brick veneer wall, and again to make that bedroom super comfortable. With regards to reverse brick veneer, we've got another photo here just to show it when it's built. Before we saw it in a pile of bricks, and now we get to see it nicely made up, and then it's nicely covered with a low tox paint or a toxin-free paint. Well, going back to an earlier point where I mentioned there's not too much to claim here, it reminds me of what's very prevalent when we're trying to build sustainable houses is objectives and competing interests. And in this case, there was a few people involved in the project, and whilst there was a strong push for sustainability, there was also the idea that concessions had to be made. Some other stakeholders involved in this process, and their goal was to build a comfortable family home. And sustainability was on their list as well, but sometimes not at the top. And when they ask for not recycled materials and sometimes some white timber, we went with that as well. And I just like that point because it's just a reminder of the way it often works. This is why we don't often get exemplars, and it's fine. It's the way the world works. If we keep trying for more and more sustainability, we can still get there, but sometimes we have to make concessions to get a project done. Master Ensuite has, for a little room, and it is a very little room, quite a few little things to acknowledge. One is there's only one sink instead of two. Why use the materials to make two when you really only need one? There's some timber there. It's got low flow water taps. It's got a grey water system, so the water in the toilet comes from the rain on the roof. And it's got LED and natural lighting. In addition, what we can't see is the floor is not tiled. So this is how we can make 100 little decisions. So when someone says, what tiles should we put? You say, well, no tiles. We'll just use a polished concrete floor. And again, it saves on materials, transport energy costs are less. And of course, if you're making tiles in a kiln that's coal powered, that's again worse than just using the natural concrete floor. Oh, you can see the natural floor in that image there. So we're almost come through the full tour now. We're going to sneak back through the multi-purpose room. I hope you found this technology to be enjoyable. I think it's quite amazing. If you wondered how it's done, it's through a little camera, tiny little camera, which is as small as just a new phone. And it sits on a tripod and spins, and it takes pictures. And then with the technology, we're able to do all of this walking around. So there is another bedroom. We've covered the points here, only just to show that when people are choosing bedrooms, maybe this would be the best one. Sometimes people want the more glamorous one at the front and with the beautiful views. But ultimately, for sleeping conditions, this is a really, really snug and comfortable one. Across to the other bedroom, you can see again the polished floor, and you can see the single sink. We've talked about the grey water system and the tapware, and other than that, we'll just say it's a very beautiful little bathroom. 4 drying racks was a decision to try and ensure that we never had to use a dryer, and if it's raining outside, there's still plenty of room. So constantly trying to think of little extra things that can be done to make the project better. With regards to the laundry, coming back to an earlier discussion where we talked about how many square meters, again, a full laundry would probably be 4 meters long, at least 3 meters long by 3, so 9 square meters. But if you can do a Euro laundry or a cupboard laundry, you can really reduce that floor space and therefore the cost. And this laundry just sits nicely between that 3rd bedroom and the bathroom, and it just quietly is a part of the hallway. Unfortunately, I can't get to the door to show you outside, but we've discussed that earlier, and it just remains as a nice little sanctuary out the back, place to grow vegetables, plant fruit trees for the dogs to run, to share the vegetables with neighbours, for the water tanks and sand and heat pumps and other beautiful sustainability features such as the storeroom. And then coming back through, I think we'll finish off with a nice image of the front of the house. I'm just going to go quiet for 10 seconds while I just quickly think if I've covered everything. Hopefully we have. And on reflection, I'll just go through the acronym quickly, which was materials. So motive. M for materials. Have we discussed materials? I think we covered several aspects of that in terms of how often we choose, what we should choose, being aware of what embodied energy we have, trying to recycle, being aware of transport, particularly if it's air transport of materials, and really looking for things which are renewable and affordable and as green as possible. And then not only which ones we choose, but where we put them. So for example, do we put things with high thermal mass in the sun? depending on our climate, or out of the sun. Going through the acronym and looking at orientation, the house is very much designed to face the north. We've got a great living room facing of the north, and then of course we've got the cooler bedrooms out the back. The western side, which gets that harsh Australian sun, which is where the garage is, and that basically absorbs that heat and doesn't really affect your living room area too much as well. So I think in terms of orientation, it's nicely done, and we'll always get plenty of natural light, being that it's sitting on this block, which can't be built out from the sun. The T for thermal mass, we have it all throughout the living areas here, where that will be beautifully absorbed, and of course it runs through the rest of the house, so the air, the warm air, if you want warmer in winter, it will touch the concrete as well. I for internal room placement, bedrooms at the back, living rooms at the front. We didn't get the bathrooms as close together as we'd like to have the wet areas together, but in terms of room placement, we certainly have given thought to no wasted space, rooms not too big, and also an airlock which helps to separate the not as well insulated garage from the rest of the house. Ventilation, we've got plenty of cross ventilation opportunities running north and south, a little bit less east and west, but it still can work. We've definitely got well above standard insulation. It's all been well installed. The house is very well sealed, so it's a controlled environment. And for energy efficiency, with a heat exchange water heater, with the solar panels, the battery, the EV charger, and all the other low energy use devices, I think we've ticked most of the boxes. So hopefully if I submitted this assignment to myself for assessment as a university project, we'd get a good mark for it. We'd be hoping for that and thinking that maybe we would, because at 8.4 stars and with a very affordable budget or price per square meter, I think this offers a good example of, if we try and be more sustainable, it's very possible to step up a few levels, and it's definitely possible, very easy and affordable, to be very energy efficient as well. I hope that you've enjoyed the Bimbimbie project. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. We can message there, and otherwise I hope you enjoy the rest of your sustainable house day as well. Thank you.